Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA Show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting round of and new MMA Show. Happy New Year, gentlemen. Episode 126. Starting off the new year strong. I am your humble host, Michael Hansen, not an influencer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two influencer friends, both of whom influence the world of MMA conversation on the internet. Introducing to you first, in New York, he is Mark Prio. Mark, what's up, buddy?
You're the humble host, huh? Our boy Tommy O'Neill from Unboxing rubbing off on you over there?
Oh, does he say that? I forgot.
That's his intro every time. I am your humble
that's right.
host, Tom O'Neill.
I'll never say that again now.
Well, Happy New Year. I am glad to be back. Feels good to be back after the week off. Feels good to have Mike back with us after the week where we had to go it alone in the wilderness without him.
Yeah.
But I'm fucking ready for some MMA, to be quite frank, and we ain't there just yet. But it's rough with no MMA to watch. Granted, there was this Ryzen card that I missed with a couple fights, so I still got to check that out.
All right, and influencing from Florida, Omar, the Nicaraguan nightmare, Artola. What's up, bud?
I am not an influencer. No one should follow the shit that I do. No one.
No, man, you train. It's cool.
Well, that's true. Everybody should train Muay Thai. I firmly believe that. Yeah, man. I was actually telling Mark before we got on that I went to a couple of classes in the last couple of weeks doing clinch sparring with the fight team. And your boy's not great in the clinch. You got a lot of work to do, man. I got fucking elbowed every which way by everybody. And it's been a minute since I've felt lost in a class. I'm usually pretty on top of things, but this it feels completely different. And it's like I don't know how to clinch, but they all really know how to clinch, and so it's a different level. And as much cardio as I have,
learning how to stay safe in a space where you have no space has got to be so hard.
For me, it's with any part of Muay Thai so far, my biggest hurdle has been not knowing what to do next. And when I get to a point where I don't know what I'm doing, it's very difficult for me to learn on the fly. Like I have to stop and slow down and learn shit. And people on the fight team don't necessarily stop and slow down. So I'm just getting my ass kicked quite a bit and then ask questions later. That's kind of been the approach.
Sounds like probably the norm.
Yeah. It's been interesting. It's been fun, but it's had its toll.
Well, gentlemen, we have a quick show to start off 2024 because there are no fights to break down, and we also don't have any fights to look forward to this weekend. But we have something that I always love to do and look forward to, something a little different. We're going to look back at our 2023 predictions that we made for 2023, see what we got right, what we got wrong. And then we're going to give out our 2023 awards, including Knockout of the Year, Fight of the Year, Fighter of the Year, and a bunch of others, Moment of the Year. And that'll be it for tonight. So before we get into any of this discussion, which I'm sure will be lively, let's first address our audience. Hey, welcome back after a very good 2023. I'm excited for 2024. If you've been rocking with us, thank you so much. If you're new here, welcome. Do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you've been watching our videos and our content and you've been liking what you've been watching. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so that you never miss a video. Drop us a comment below because that is our very favorite way of engaging with you guys as our audience, is the comment section. If you like any of our takes, let us know. Be like, hey, great take, Mark. If you disagree with any of our takes, let us know. Be like, Omar, that's a shit take. And give us your take. We love hearing your guys' takes. As always, keep it classy because we will clap back at you. And by we, I do mean Mark. If you
Omar
want,
too
I'm
these
there.
days.
I was gonna say I'm there too.
you guys do. You guys do.
Omar wasn't taking that shit about Patty Pimblett. I'll tell you that.
Listen, you ain't gonna tell me what good technique looks like. I am fully aware that I am not the greatest fighter in the world. I am not a professional. I am not at that level. I still know what good technique looks like. You ain't gonna tell me shit about that. I know exactly what it looks like, and just because I can't do it myself doesn't mean I can't recognize it. Because I've been watching this shit and feeding my mind with all of the fucking fighting for like 2009. What is that? Where are we? 2023? Lots of fucking years.
Let me say this also. In terms of just a real quick tangent, in terms of the comments and stuff like that, if people are going to talk shit, they're going to talk shit. It's the internet that's going to happen. But
what they do.
You know what I appreciate? I feel like somebody did this a week or two ago. If people like leave us constructive criticism for our show, for like our format.
Oh, I love that guy. I went right back to him and thanked him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome. I love that. So if you guys ever have any kind of constructive feedback for us, we welcome it. Let us know down in the comments or DM us on Instagram. Speaking of which, find us wherever you get your podcasts. We have audio only format as well. And of course, we're on social media. You can find us on all of the relevant platforms at the handle @AndNew_MMA show. All right, let us begin 2024. Here we go, boys. Clap it in. Clap it in.
I feel like in the prior awards episodes, we're like toasting with alcohol. I'm like fucking recovering from being sick. I'm chugging an enormous water. Like, there's nothing fun happening over here.
Okay. This can be probably quite a bit less structured than our typical episodes. So let's talk about our assessing our breakout predictions, our breakout star predictions from episode 76, which was either at the end of 2022 or at the very beginning or this time last year. Who would like to go first? How do you guys want to do this?
Should we revisit them and see what happens?
Omar, do you want to start or shall
Omar, start us off.
I'll go first. I'll go down my line here. So my group was Jonathan Almeida,
of course,
Jasmine Hadagui,
that's right,
Tatsuro Taira, Terrence McKinney, Jack Della Maddalena, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Aaron Blanchfield, and Raul Rosas Jr. Not a terrible list.
That was a pretty solid hit rate. Rosas didn't happen. Haragui didn't happen. Was that it?
They did not have great years. Blanchfield had a good year. Rakhmonov had a fantastic year. Maddalena came out with a couple wins.
Yeah.
Did McKinney? How did McKinney do this
didn't
year?
quite happen.
He didn't do well, right?
He did his usual thing.
1-1?
Yeah, he loses to someone good, and then he like knocks out a newcomer in 12 seconds. That type of a deal.
On like a week's notice.
Pretty much.
And then Halton Almeida is clearly,
for sure,
the top pick.
That was pretty solid.
Thank you.
Now you got me looking at McKinney. Let's see. What exactly did McKinney's year look
Tyra did well, but like he didn't break out, really.
Agree. That's true. Yeah, McKinney was 2-2. Yeah, the Tyra breakout has been a bit delayed.
Slow burn.
Yeah. He was on my list too, I guess, if we segue right over. I threw a bunch of flyweights on my list. I kind of made the point of that. I thought flyweight was going to have like a new breed coming up, which was Tyra Makayev, who's sort of same boat as Tyra in that like he's like, I guess a little more he broke out, but I feel like he's still like one fight away from the big time breakout.
Yeah.
And then I had on a bit of a higher level Albazi and Kopp, which Albazi certainly did happen. The man's about to fight Brandon Moreno. Kopp dealt with his usual bullshit of 1,000 fights falling through. So I guess we're still not quite there.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty happy with that flyweight group. Bantamweight, I said Adrian Yanez. That one didn't go so well. I also had Javid Basharat, who was kind of the victim of some booking issues as well. He had the nut shot in his last fight where he was trying to get past Victor Henry, which would have been a big win.
Oh, yeah.
Welterweight's another group where I did very well. I had, like you, Shavkat and JDM, who obviously both did break out. And then I also had Ian Gary and Renat Fakhretdinov. So I think all of those went pretty well. Renat did just have that draw, so I guess that delayed it a bit, but he smoked past Kevin Lee, and obviously Ian Gary had a huge year.
Yeah.
So did well there. I too had Blanchfield, just like you, which we definitely hit on. I had Tatiana Suarez, which was certainly a hit as well. She came back, went 2-0, right on the verge of a title shot.
Yeah.
I also had Almeida, which we got. My one bad one, well, I guess Adrian Yanez was a bad one too, but my other bad one was Tyson Pedro, who had a bit of an up and down year. He's up right now, thankfully, but he had that tough loss mixed in there, and he didn't really break out.
But something happened there. He got sick or some bullshit. Like that wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't a normal loss because he looked terrible in that fight.
Right, but there was still
we lost nonetheless.
No breakouts to speak of. Yeah. And then my very last name was Tom Aspinall, who quite certainly has broken out and is the man at, well, I guess the secondary man at heavyweight right now. So yeah, I'm pretty content with that list. I did better than I was imagining I would have.
So my list, I agreed with Omar about Yasmin Hadagui at women's strawweight, and I think she had a decent year, but I don't know if she broke out as a star. I said this in episode 76, and star is obviously a pretty subjective term. I feel like the two main branches you could say are that they break into the elite of their weight division, which is one thing, which is you could say it's a form of like, oh, he's a star now. But then there's also like stardom, I think is also more closely tied into like personality and how they are on the mic and just their whole persona outside of the cage as well. I think we all said Blanchfield at women's flyweight. Clearly, she had an incredible year with wins and climbing up into the upper ranks of women's flyweight. At men's flyweight, I also said Makayev. Just talent alone, I thought that he was going to have a huge year. I thought he was going to become more of a star in his division. I said the layup pick at lightweight in Armin Sarukian. Similar deal to Makayev, man. Welterweight, similar deal, Rachmanov. It's just like a matter of fucking time. It's not even, it's like, you can't even pick him. Like, it's just a foregone conclusion that the man is going to wear welterweight gold sooner or later. My reach pick at middleweight was Fluffy Hernandez, and he only fought once this past year.
Yeah, bad luck kind of nixed that one more than anything else. It could have happened.
Yeah, that's true. My pick at light heavyweight was Carlos Ulberg.
Oh, nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I nailed it in that. I don't think he really broke out into stardom in 2023, but clearly on his way.
I mean, he's booked against Dom Reyes.
Oh, that's right.
Well, now he's not because he pulled out. He was.
And then heavyweight, I said Almeida as well, and that panned out pretty well.
Dude, pretty well. Look at us. It's like we should have a podcast or something. We killed that.
Man.
The next segment we struggled a little bit more.
A little bit more was we tried to predict. I think this is even more fun than like handing out what we're going to say, predicting the breakout starts in each division. Or no, the weight, the champion of each division at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Well, that's just tougher.
That's where we struggled. Yeah, it is tougher. For sure.
Because there's just so many variables and so much can happen.
Yes.
Mark, would you like to lead us through that?
I mean, this I think we could kind of just take by weight class and we'll say what each of us took. But yeah, I'll open it up. I guess we'll start at the smallest weight class, which is women's strawweight. So me and Mike did get this one. We both did say Wei Li. Omar went a little bit bolder and said Amanda Lemos, which didn't quite work out. Though, did you even pick Lemos when the fight came?
Who the fuck knows, man? You know I'm a mess.
But yes, Wei Li, obviously, huge year, some dominant performances, and me and Mike start off on the right foot with that one. Next one is where we get into some changes, which is that all
Yeah.
three of us took Valentina Shevchenko, and we did it with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it ain't Valentina
And look
Shevchenko.
what happened.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, obviously controversy in the last one. If that ever could have gone her way, we would have still ended up being right. But the champ there is obviously Alexa Grasso, who had a huge year, and I'm sure we'll be talking about her potentially as we work through some of these awards. So we were over on women's flyweight. Women's bantamweight, I know I got a bit bold here, and I said Shevchenko here as well, just because I figured that before Amanda was gone, they would try to make that fight one more time, and I said, let's be bold and take Valentina. Obviously, none of that played out. Amanda simply defended her belt and walked away. You guys both said Amanda, so I guess sort of we could have said that you were right there. I didn't mark it off as right in the email that I sent. But she did walk away with the belt. Couldn't have predicted that she was going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no champ at the moment, right? Yeah, there's not. Women's featherweight we didn't even do. Now here's where your boy shined. Flyweight. Both of you guys were on Moreno.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably, I got Pantoja. I believed that if he got his shot, he could get it done, and I did stick with that. I picked him when the actual fight came up as well, and I nailed that one. So I feel pretty good about that. I feel like I'm doing all the talking here. I feel like I need to
do it. You're good.
Need to bring you guys in some fashion.
No,
Bantamweight, we all sucked. Bantamweight is just crazy. I went Aljo. I was close. If he ever could have got past O'Malley, that would have been the answer. Mike went Jan. That one didn't quite play out.
Yeah.
A little bit of a tough year for Piotr Jan. Mike believed he was going to bounce right back. And Omar went Cheeto. So, hey, one more fight from now.
It could happen.
Omar could be right. Who turned Cheeto back? Why am I blanking this year? Sandhagen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, now he's right back at it. So we all missed bantamweight. None of us got O'Malley, which, I mean, it wouldn't have been the craziest pick for anybody to say O'Malley. I'm surprised no one did it.
That's true.
Featherweight, me and Mike got this one. We went Volk.
Yeah, baby.
Omar went Topuria. He only did it, though, because he said Volk was going to leave the division and go to lightweight. So maybe you would have said Volk otherwise.
I'm fairly confident I would have said Volk.
But, again, one fight away. Could be Topuria.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very soon. What month are they?
Isn't it January?
March? Is it January? Is it that soon? No. Well, yeah. Is there a pay-per-view this month? I guess there is. Who's the main event? Now we need to see. What pay-per-view are we up to?
298.
Oh, 297
February.
Oh, they're 298. So who's 297 headliners? Oh, it's Strickland and Duplessis. Wow, I didn't realize that was that soon. Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't realize Strickland was turning around that quick.
Wow. That's cool. And the women's bantamweight title is the co-main. Raquel and Buenosova. Okay. So that was featherweight. Lightweight, again, me and Mike got this one. We both went with the expected pick, and we went with Islam. Omar went with Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
Not quite. Not quite. Charles Oliveira derailed that. And then Armin did, even worse. Welterweight, there's going to be an ugly stretch here of 3 straight divisions where nobody looks smart. We were doing all right. Welterweight, Mike believed that Usman would get it back. That one did not happen. Omar went with Bilal, which I guess, he probably thought Bilal was going to get a shot sooner than this. He is, you would hope, getting it very soon, but that one didn't happen. And I went Chimaev simply because I was saying, when I watched it back, I was saying how between Leon and Usman and Bilal and Colby, I felt like they all could have beat each other depending on the matchup, and I didn't know what to do, so I figured I would just roll the dice, even though I didn't even know if Chimaev would stay at welterweight, and obviously he did not. So I got that one wrong. So yeah, no one picked Leon, which is wild because he's so good. Like, it's hard to believe that none of us just went with Leon Edwards.
Yeah,
Middleweight, me and Omar went with Izzy, and we were close. Obviously, he did get his belt back, but then unexpectedly dropped it to Mr. Sean Strickland. Mike went with Pereira, who he thought would turn Izzy back again. Obviously, that one did not happen, but Pereira is the champion of a different weight class, so maybe we give Mike like 0.1%. Moving to that weight class, light heavyweight, me and Omar again, we were close. We went Yuri Prohaska. He had his fight. Didn't quite happen for him. Got turned back by Alex Pereira. Mike went with Ankalaev, who has had definitely a weird year with the draw and the no contest and everything else. You know, a couple things break differently. He could have easily had a title shot by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think that's still in his future. So he may not be super far off from being right there. And then heavyweight. A couple of us look good here in different ways. Mike chose to believe in the scariness of Sergey Pavlovich. But Tom Aspinall was not fazed by that scariness, so that one didn't go his way. I went with Tom Aspinall, which at the time was super bold since he was on the couch with a shattered knee, and I kind of just took it because I wanted to believe, and here we are. He's the interim champ, so I'm pretty happy about that one. And then Omar truly got it by saying if Bones fought, he did have a caveat, and he went Pavlovich in case, but he said if Bones fought, his answer was Bones, and Bones is the heavyweight champ. So Omar got that one. I believe I won if we're counting them up, but yeah, it wasn't an incredible showing from any of the boys on that one. But like you said, it's so hard. Like at the tippy top of MMA, there's so many good dudes and girls that you just never can tell. Like I see all these like companies do this companies, whatever, sites, pages do this every year, try to predict the champs, and like no one ever nails it. It's just MMA is fucking wild. Like who picked Sean Strickland at the beginning of this year to be the middleweight champ? Nobody.
Sometimes it just has to do with opportunity. A lot of times it's not always necessarily who the best fighter is in those time in that moment.
Oh yeah.
But opportunities and people taking opportunities and not turning things down is a lot of times is how we get to places that we're getting. So
for sure. Yeah. The timing, injuries, who gets matched up with who. I mean, there's a ton of it that changes, everything. Like we might have picked, God knows who. Mike might have picked Ankalaev at light heavyweight, but he might have picked every single light heavyweight fight the whole year. It's just that Ankalaev never got that shot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's very hard to pick.
It is.
But yeah, so that's that. I'm excited to do it again in a week and try to guess who's going to be the champs at the end of 2024. But we will save our previews for next week, which if you have not been with us at the start of a year before, this is what we do. We do our little recap of the year that just ended, and then next week we'll hit you with a preview and our predictions for what's going to come in 2024. But yeah, now we'll pivot back to the official best MMA award show around. What do we even call this shit? I don't even remember. Just the end of MMA awards.
The newies?
I think that's exactly what it was.
I hope it wasn't the newies.
Yeah, let's not make it the newies.
All right, Mike, take back hosting. I don't like doing it.
That's all right. Let's do some awards. Let's just talk about who we think should win awards and be considered great in 2023. Let's start out with a funny one, which is always funny every year. I think it's so weird. MMA Pundit of the Year. Pundit of the Year. Other than the two of you gentlemen, who I think should win every year. You guys should split it, the two of you, every year with your great insights. Mark, is it your choice to call it pundit of the year or journalist of the year? Because I see journalist of the year a lot.
I don't remember why we went with pundit. I think we tried to be
A little different.
like more encompassing.
I like it because journalist of the year, it just seems to always go to Ariel. And I love Ariel. But I'm like, it's been Ariel for like 15 years straight.
Yeah, but you can't make it somebody else because you don't want it to be Ariel anymore.
Exactly.
But he's also, I don't really think of Ariel as a journalist anymore. I mean, he's got he's just got his own show.
Well, he's certainly a pundit. So what are you doing right
He's
now?
certainly a pundit.
I still think
He's
he's
certainly a
definitely.
pundit.
I still think he's a journalist for sure. He still
So-
follows the laws of journalism and the rules of journalism,
I guess so.
and he's a source. He's a verified source. When he
Yeah,
says
I guess
something,
so.
there's weight behind it. There's a lot of chooches out there that just make shit up, and that's not journalism either. So
Well,
This is true.
and listen, I do not say that to mean that as a dig against Ariel. I just feel like he's taken his platform and his celebrity that he has in the MMA world, and he's running with it. And he has his own show. He's a host.
yeah,
Of anyway, enough about that. Who do you guys think is the pundit of the year? Who was your
Ariel.
favorite?
Yeah. I mean, it's Ariel for me too. Like you said, like you can't give it to anyone else, which like it almost feels like there's no reason to give this award out because it's just the Ariel Hawani award. But I will give a shout out to my man Dan Hardy, who I always love.
I love that.
The dude's breakdowns are absolutely incredible. If you're not familiar with the War Room on his YouTube page, you should get familiar. Guy absolutely knows his shit, and he's getting more and more shine lately through his affiliation with PFL, and they're kind of letting him become a face of MMA again, like he was once on track to do for the UFC before everything went south there. But he's getting a bit of a foothold as a voice again, I would say. So I'm happy to see that, and he would be my kind of second shout here, aside from the obvious winner, which is Ariel.
I'd agree with that. Actually, I do love his takes.
There
was one point where Robin Black used to do breakdowns, and he was fantastic too, but he doesn't do them anymore as much.
It
as he
seems
used
like
to.
Robin Black kind of faded away a little bit.
I think he's just getting older, man. He's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. You know who else had an enormous year? Now that I'm thinking about it, what is this girl's name that does all the interviews and she's always with Sean Strickland?
She's
the
social media
Nina
influencer
something.
girl.
Nina somebody?
Yeah.
Dude,
she's had a great year, but she doesn't give me anything of value. So I can't.
she does not. But to her credit, that girl has exploded. I don't know.
She's a hustler, dog.
She was with Strickland at the right time, and obviously their personalities match in a way that's kind of like charming, and you want to kind of watch their interactions, and maybe that's, I guess, what initially gave her that push. But my God, has she ran with it? I mean, she is everywhere.
She's also it doesn't hurt that she's gorgeous. So
she's very pretty.
She is. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it's
of course. Yeah.
There's a whole thing that she does with who's the one that does the desk now? Now I can't remember her name.
Senko?
She's relatively Laura Senko. She did a TikTok with Laura Senko about the expectation of girls in jiu-jitsu versus the reality. And they like played the sexy hot girl thing out, and like it works for her, man. She plays into her strengths, and she's funny. She's got good interviews, and she's always down for a laugh. But
yeah, she's
journalist,
definitely
influencer
than
for
sure. I don't want
sure.
to say she has a character, but like she kind of has that little act of like being.
She has a persona.
She's definitely
like a persona, like a shtick almost.
Yes.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing.
It's not.
She's got her thing.
Sorry. I shouldn't say
It's a
like
shtick.
like the schmo. That's a shtick.
Oh well,
yeah.
That's
she
a
has her
bad
avenue
shtick.
of what is working, and that is what she's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't know who to pick for this. I always put just like Ariel ? Luke Thomas ? I don't know. I always appreciate a Luke Thomas take.
You do.
Yeah,
more than me.
Let's move on to referee of the year. Mark?
I thought there were a good handful of refs that were pretty solid this year. Like I feel like in other years, there's usually a good handful of guys who I'm like, he fucked this one up, he fucked this one up. There were certainly judges who fucked a lot of things up this year, but I thought that
Yeah.
Goddard had a pretty solid year. I thought Mark Smith had a solid year. I thought Herb Dean had a solid year. But for all three of those dudes, I can remember one moment where it was kind of rough and I didn't love how they handled it. And the only guy who I can't remember a single moment of feeling that way is Jason Herzog.
Oh yeah.
So that is why my answer this year is Jason Herzog.
I feel like I've gotten away from Herzog because he's just so good. He's the Ariel Helwani of refereeing.
I went Mark Smith last year, but yeah, I'm back to
I'm going Mark Smith again this year because I just he's maybe because it's more of like a recency bias. Like he seems like a newer face in the refereeing stable, and I just appreciate his solid work and his command of the ring. It's like a really appropriate level of authority that he has in the cage. I feel.
agree.
Yeah. But man, yeah, you guys know I always fucking love Jason Herzog in the cage. Omar, what do you think?
I have been talking about Jason Herzog, I feel like, for years. People have not necessarily given him credit, I feel like, the way that I have in the past. I'm going to stick with Jason Herzog. I feel like I chose him last year. I would say, though, that I've not always had the best take of Mark Smith, but I really did enjoy him this year. I thought he was on top of his shit this year. So,
okay, breakout fighter of the year. Here.
Wait, Mike, I think you skipped coach.
Oh yeah, coach of the year. Oh man, all right, gotta wait for a breakout fighter. Coach of the year, Omar, you take it first this time.
coach of the year for me, I gave it to Eric Nixick. There's a lot of coaches that are out there, but he had a hell of a year, man. He got Ngannou, helped Ngannou kind of navigate all of this crazy shit, got him into that boxing match with Fury, arguably helped him at least get to a point where people believed that he won that fight, or at least gave him a good run for his money. And apparently made the biggest amount of money that he's ever made in his life, to the point that it changed his life. So it's hard not to give that man his flowers in 2023.
I too had Eric Nixick.
Wow.
I thought that was just going to be me, to be honest.
No, man. I mean, to your point, like what he's done with Francis. I mean, I feel like coaches, to a large extent, have to be judged on not on their own results, but on their fighters' results. So in a certain sense, the success of a coach is a little bit out of their own hands, because the fighters got to go out and fight the fights. But if you're going off of the success of their fighters in their stable, then what he's done with Ngannou and what he's done with Sean fucking Strickland, I'm going with Eric Nixick. Mark?
Yeah, so we're unanimous, which is funny because almost everywhere that I have seen, not like it's whatever, I've seen maybe 3 different sites awards that I've seen in these past couple weeks. It's always been Mike Brown, which I totally get. But sure. So I'm saying that's why I'm surprised all 3 of us went Nixick.
Same.
I do always try to look at a coach who had multiple champions break through, and this year there wasn't like a dominant coach like we've seen in other years. Mike Brown did have 2. He had Johnny Eblen as a champ, and obviously Alexandre Pantoja. So I guess that's why he won. Obviously, plenty of success of the other fighters under him. But I'm with you guys. To me, the accomplishment of taking Sean Strickland, who had never even really been discussed as a title contender, and having him beat Israel Adesanya the way that he did, a guy that some people consider the greatest middleweight ever, who are dumb because obviously he's the second, but that's its own conversation. But having him beat Izzy the way that he did, I almost think that alone for me makes him the coach of the year. And then you sprinkle in what he did with Ngannou. Obviously it's not MMA, but some credit for standing in a boxing ring across from Tyson Fury and arguably winning that fight. So yeah, to me, I think Eric Nixick deserves it.
Nice. Okay, here we go. Breakout fighter of the year. I'm very interested to see who you guys have. I hope we're not unanimous, because there's just so many different ways to take this. Mark, you go first.
So this is the point where I start having some honorable mentions here. I'm not sure if you
Sure.
guys
I do.
did
I
it
do
that
as
way,
well.
but I always do. So yeah, there were some legit breakouts this year. Erin Blanchfield, we mentioned, she broke out in a big way. Alexa Grasso broke out from the pack to become the champion and knocked off Valentina Shevchenko, which is huge. On the Bellator side of things, you had Jason Jackson break out from relative anonymity, if we're talking casuals, to knock out Yaroslav Amosov, which was enormous, and become the welterweight champion. You had Patchy Mix kind of separate himself from the pack and knock out Rafion Stotts, tap out Sergio Pettis, and now he's up there in the discussion as one of the best bantamweights alive, if not the best. And then kind of circling back to guys who had big runs in the UFC, Benoit Saint-Denis,
Yeah.
Ian
He's on his
Gary,
way. He's on his way.
Shavkat, Drekis finishing both Derek Brunson and Robert Whittaker was an enormous breakout for him. My boy Brendan Allen tapping 3 different dudes on his way up.
Yeah.
Jalton Almeida going 3-0, who obviously we mentioned. And then get to my runner-up and my winner here. My runner-up is Tom Aspinall. Simply to go from January 1st of 2023, sitting on a couch with his knee shredded, no one knowing when he'd be back, what he'd look like when he came back, and to have finished 2 dudes in a combined 2 minutes and currently have an interim title wrapped around his waist with people talking about how he needs to fight John Jones is a hell of a breakout from the way this year began for him. But he's still not my winner, because my winner is the man we just finished discussing, which is Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has been very good for a while, but he has not been more than that. He has not ever been a dude where people are like, that's a title contender. We got to see him fight for a title. Not in either weight class he's been in. He spent a lot of time at welterweight. He spent a lot of time now at middleweight. There was ups, there was downs. He was always like, yeah, Sean Strickland's a good fighter. He'll give you a tough fight. No one ever was like, that dude's going to be the champion. And he came this year, and even the way he did it, he beat Nasruddin Imavov. Okay, good win. Then he finished Abus Magomedov, and somehow from that, he ended up in a title fight. So even at that point, the breakout had not occurred. And the man is the middleweight champion of the world at year's end. So and dominated Israel Adesanya in a fight that no one thought Israel Adesanya won. Like, there was no controversy. There was nothing. There was just, wow, Sean Strickland whooped that man, and he is the champ. So to me, that is the biggest breakout of the year, simply for him to go from a place that he had sort of remained at for his entire career to this point to being the man.
Omar?
I was actually going in the Sean Strickland route as well.
Wow.
But he's also in another one of my categories as well. Here's the thing about Sean Strickland, and I think Mark kind of summed it up relatively well, is I think he broke out. It's the expectation, right? It's the expectation of it all. I feel like it's one of those moments where if something had met our expectations, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. It would just be the norm almost. And Sean Strickland outstriking Israel Adesanya, having the 2023 that he's had, both inside the octagon and outside the octagon. I mean, I don't even like Sean Strickland like that, but you can't deny that the dude has had one hell of a 2023. It might not even get better for him from here, but 2023, that was the year of Sean Strickland as far as I'm concerned.
So I also have quite a few thoughts on basically, I mean, I guess you can't call them honorable mentions, but I think of them as like, what were the exclusion criteria in a certain sense? But I'll just say honorable mentions. To a certain extent, for me, Duplessis is an honorable mention with the year that he's had. Really, he has. I mean, I wrote down not a breakout fighter, but has ascended. Like, Duplessis has ascended into the like elite ranks of middleweight. I think Rachmanov has ascended. I mean, he just finished Wonder Boy. Shalton Ameda, certainly. I think he's the breakout fighter on a few lists that I've seen online.
Yep.
Even bigger than has ascended, I would say has ascended now to somewhat of like active legend status. Alex Pereira now being 2-weight champ. Like Pereira is kind of starting to cement himself among all-time MMA greats with what he's managed to accomplish in such a short period of time. Obviously, Erin Blanchfield has ascended into the women's flyweight rankings, and she's really at the upper echelon of her division. My pick for breakout fighter of the year is Ian Machado Gary. Has he ascended into the upper ranks of welterweight? He's getting there for sure. But I just feel like he just had a breakout year of stardom. I think he's just much more of a household name. In 2023, he has let his personality really blossom, and he's allowed himself to be as boisterous as he wants to be. Obviously, I would say, even bad press is good press to a certain extent, and the bit of controversy he's had in the latter portion of this past year has only helped, in a certain sense, grow his star in the UFC and in the sport. So that's my pick. I don't imagine many people have it, but when I think of who has broken out and has now really become one of the new faces of the UFC and one of the new stars of the UFC, it's Ian Gary for me. Omar?
I have no issue with that pick.
Oh, thank you.
This is the underappreciated ones.
No, that was Breakout.
That was Breakout?
Mike was last to go.
Yeah. I already did Breakout.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, dude. My bad. Okay, underappreciated fighter of the year. Yeah, Omar, go ahead.
I had Diego Lopes.
He could have been Breakout too.
Yeah, he could have, but I think the fact that no one is still talking about this kid, that he's not at the tip of everybody's like lips, that no one's really pushing for him to get something we were the one that were standing for one of the big fights that was going on in the last last month that they were looking for a short notice replacement. I can't think of it on the top of my head, but I was like, throw Diego Lopes in there. They didn't.
Yeah, who was that?
But it wasn't Figgy, was it? It wasn't Figgy. Was it Figgy?
Was it Josh Emmett when Bryce Mitchell stepped in?
Yeah. Wrong weight class. But yeah, I mean, Diego Lopes is not getting the love that I think he deserves since his inception here in the UFC. Even though he didn't win that fight, right? That first one, but it was like
he lost
crazy,
to Voyev in the debut,
bro.
Yeah.
But that was a crazy fucking fight.
Yeah.
Like, if there's any way to come to the UFC, win or loss, that was the way to do it. And he's just gotten better since, man. He's definitely one to look out for 2024. I think if he's, like we talked about recently, if he's given the right opportunities, I think Diego Lopes could do some real damage at 145.
Mark, I want to know who you have.
So for this category, I always try to look at guys or girls who had a undefeated record where they were 3-0 or better, who maybe people didn't entirely pay attention to. So names who would fall into that list: Roman Kopylov KO'd 3 dudes this year, went 3-0.
That's true.
Brendan Allen subbed 3 dudes this year, went 3-0. Granted, he is getting some recognition now, so maybe he doesn't quite fit the bill. Our boy Nicholas Dalby had a hell of a year, going 3-0 with a fantastic win to cap it off recently.
Yes.
Elves Brenner debuted this year and went 3-0. One of them over Guram Kutateladze, who is a guy who has beaten Mateusz Gamrot, so that's how legit he is. So big debut year for Elves Brenner. And then the one person, God, I can't shake this cough, I'm sorry. The one person who went 4-0 fairly quietly this year, although this is my runner-up, is Lupi Godinez. She had a very big year. She showed a lot of improvement, rattled off 4 wins, and has really put herself into the mix now after some up and down, moments in the prior part of her career coming into this year. But for my winner, I'm going to completely buck what I just told you I look at, because my winner is going to be Merab Dvalishvili.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
And the reason is I almost feel like he is just like stuck in the shadows because he has fought one time this year. He wouldn't fight Aljo, obviously, so he has been stuck waiting. But the one time we saw this man, he did things to Piotr Jan that you never imagined you would see a human being do to Piotr Jan, unless it was like a middleweight. Like he
Yeah.
absolutely threw Piotr Jan around a ring, around a cage for 25 minutes. And I kind of feel like it came and went because everyone was like, well, that was amazing, but he's not going to fight Aljo. So like, let's talk about all the other dudes in this division. And he doesn't really get his love. So yes, it was only one fight, but it was one of the most dominant performances of the entire year, and over a guy who people view as an all-time great in Piotr Jan. So to me, the guy who was underappreciated this year was Merab.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
You don't hate it?
I don't hate it.
Now that I've heard Mark's honorable mentions, I do hate my pick, but I love my pick because I love my fighter that I picked. I picked Khalil Roundtree because he's so underappreciated that I didn't even appreciate how to spell his damn last name. But that was more my fault. Come on, Roundtree. My brain just put the D in round. Okay.
Round.
I think there's a little bit of an argument to be made that Khalil is a little bit underrated or underappreciated, but I also really like a few of those honorable mentions that you said, Mark. Like Dalby. Oh my God. Like Dalby is regarded as like a mid-tier kind of just another guy in the division. But it's like, look at his record and look who he just finished.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. I like Khalil though. For sure.
Okay. Comeback fighter of the year, not to be confused with comeback of the year. Comeback of the year meaning within a fight, a guy who was losing a fight and came back and won that fight. But the comeback fighter of the year, I will go first because I feel like this one is a fairly easy one to make. How can it not be Tom Aspinall to come back from what was a horrific looking knee injury in the opening moments, the opening seconds of his fight against Curtis Blades in 2022, in summer of 2022, out for a year, comes back in the summer of 2023, knocks out Tybura, and then comes back in the fall and knocks out Sergey Pavlovich in, what was it, a minute? Was it 60 seconds or 90 seconds or something?
Yep.
Oh, man. Comeback fight of the year. Slam dunk. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right.
Oh, I ain't gonna. Maybe Omar will. We'll save him for last. I ain't gonna. I'll give you a few runners up and that I wanted to note very quickly. Kind of just shout outs to three guys that I feel like people may have thought were done in different ways coming into this year. One is Cody Garbrandt, who was 1-5 in his last 6 fights. He had just failed in his flyweight experiment and had been largely written off. And he returned this year to out-wrestle Trevin Jones and then KO Brian Kelleher. So a fair little comeback for Cody Garbrandt. Next one's Edson Barbosa, who had lost 2 in a row to Giga and Bryce Mitchell, and it kind of seemed like age had maybe finally caught up with him. And all he did this year was finish Billy Q and then put on one of the best comebacks of the entire year by beating Sadiq Youssef in a classic to reestablish himself as a contender. And then maybe what people may think is an odd one, but Justin Gaethje. At the end of last year, there was a lot of talk that Justin Gaethje may walk away. He had lost to Charles Oliveira. People were saying, what was his road back to a title? He was saying, the only reason I do this is to be a champion. If I'm not going to get the belt, then I may be done. And instead of walking away, he came back to beat Rafael Fiziev and then knock out Dustin Poirier to avenge a loss, become the BMF champ, and likely earn another shot at the belt. So all three of those guys, I feel like, really had big bounce back years following up what they had gone through in 2022. And then when I first started thinking about this in my head, I was like, there's a very obvious winner here. It's Tatiana Suarez. She hadn't fought since 2019, sick, injuries, returned this year, picked up right where she left off, tapping 2 girls, right on the verge of a title shot, but she is my runner-up because, as Mike said, it is a very obvious answer. I don't see how you go any other way than Tom Aspinall. I kind of already said this a couple awards ago, but to go from tearing your knee apart and not knowing when you were going to fight to being a man that is on the tips of everyone's tongues who they can't wait to see fight John Jones, not possible to make a better comeback than that.
Yeah, man. Omar, your piece.
We're unanimous. It is Tom Aspinall. I mean, the reality is the man exploded his knee. Again, we go back to the expectations. I didn't expect him to come back at all in 2023, let alone as quickly as he did. And then to top it all off, ending the year out as probably the appropriate heavyweight champ. Who knows what John Jones and Stipe and whatever that show is at this point. It doesn't even really seem like we're in the same timeline here. It's like two parallel fucking lines of the heavyweight division at this point, none of which I think are ever going to actually intersect. But Aspinall did it, man. Aspinall did something that is very, very difficult to do. Ask Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz took however the hell long to get his knees back in order after a failed attempt here, rough surgery there, re-pulling shit here. It's not easy to come back from those injuries and look the same, one, but look better is even more difficult to do. And Tom Aspinall looked fucking amazing. So, Tom Aspinall.
Love it.
Okay. Comeback of the year. Within a fight, comeback of the year. Omar, staying with you. Give us your comeback in a fight of the year.
So I feel like there were some good ones this year, but the one that kept coming in my head just because of the arm break, Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner. You can't tell me that this man fought with a broken arm for rounds, won that fight, and that's not a comeback. After getting his ass semi-handed to him in that first round, he didn't come back and win that fight with no controversy attached to it whatsoever. That fight is crazy to me. Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner.
I feel better because that's my answer too. And in my head, I was like, I don't know if that's the right answer, but it's the one I want to give. So
yeah,
I'm glad you gave it as well. I feel like comeback is hard because I feel like there is probably an amazing one that I'm just completely forgetting. Ones I did remember are, I mentioned a few minutes ago, Edson Barbosa's, which I considered, which was unbelievable. And then the other one was fairly recently, which was Rodolfo Bellator when he fought Ihor Potieria, if you remember that one, where he was just getting drubbed on and just somehow never got hurt during any of it and ended up putting Potieria out. So that one I almost picked. But the Dan Hooker one, it's just the way that it all happened. Like, it was just a personal favorite comeback of mine. Like the fact that he was so clearly outgunned, or at least looking outgunned in the start of that fight, and getting hurt, and then in the second still getting hurt, dropped in the second, and just said, it's like these kind of fights we talk about where he was like, I have one way to win this fight, and it is to make this into an absolute dogfight and show that I'm the bigger dog, because technique for technique and size for size, speed for speed, whatever you want to say, I'm getting smoked right now. And that's what he was able to do. He was able to gut it out through the broken arm, through pushes that still came from Jalen Turner, again in the second, again in the third as that fight went on. And he was just like, no, I am going to walk this man down and I'm going to make sure I take this thing. And that's what he did. So to me, that's the one that sticks in my head.
For me, that was my runner-up. And my number one was Barbosa's comeback against Sadiq.
Oh, yeah.
Totally
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
To be basically knocked out on his feet in the first round. I don't know how he stayed on his feet. I mean, at one point I was like, he is out on his feet. And I thought that fight could have and maybe should have been stopped.
It was close.
The ref he swallowed his whistle, man. He just swallowed his whistle. And he let Barbosa just hang in there by a thread. Poor Sadiq, man. Barbosa survives the first round, and then just in a very veteran-like way, man, he just went to work for the rest of the fight. That was a 5-round fight, was it not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was a main event.
and he put it on Sadiq for the rest of the fight, and he almost finished Sadiq.
Yep.
I really wish that he got to finish, but I remember he just didn't have enough. I think he fell into Sadiq. He followed him to the ground, and I was like, that's it. He's not gonna finish him. But he was just too exhausted, man. But what a fucking comeback that was. It was one of those fights where it's just like, that's why you watch, man. That's why you watch.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, submission win of the year. I will go first, and my pick is partly the submission, but sometimes the submission win of the year or even the knockout of the year can be influenced by the gravity of the moment or the stakes. And for me, it was Alexa Grasso submitting Valentina Shevchenko for the title with that face crank. But again, it wasn't just the face crank itself. It was that whole sequence. It was the timing of Shevchenko's spinning heel kick and Shevchenko jumping on her back right away. Grasso, I believe, was losing that fight almost the whole way, mainly on points because Shevchenko is just too good of a kickboxer, and perfectly timed. And it was just a sequence written in the stars. And the moment after Shevchenko tapped and Grasso on her back just put her hands up in celebration. Great sub, great moment. What do you guys say? Mark?
Omar, do you just have one?
For sub, yeah.
Because I got three others I was going to shout, so I won't steal yours. You go first.
Mine is also Grasso. It has. I mean, for me, it has to be. It's. I didn't think Shevchenko was going to lose ever, let alone losing the way that she did. Making a small mistake and having Grasso prepared to 100% capitalize on it. It was beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Probably something that's never going to happen again. You're probably not going to see something like that happen again. And it was amazing that it happened at all. So for me, it was Grasso.
When Grasso lets go and you see the pink indent.
That's what I'm
Valentina's
waiting
face.
for someone to say here. God,
yeah. And it wasn't right. I mean, that is a good point. It wasn't even a choke, right? It was a neck crank.
Yeah.
We're unanimous, boys. I'll circle back to Grasso. I will give a quick shout out to three other people. For technique, I loved Davy Grant's reverse triangle of Rafael Assunção when Assunção shot the legs and Davy Grant just kind of fell over the top and somehow locked up a reverse triangle in the process. Not something that you see every day. I loved that submission. For sheer what the fuckness, Shavkat Rakhmonov just bullying Jeff Neal and standing rear naked bulldog choking him, whatever you want to call it. And for dominance, John Jones coming up to heavyweight.
Yeah.
And
we haven't even mentioned him much tonight.
Walking through Cyril Gane and tapping him out to become the heavyweight champion. So all three of those were very significant in different ways. But the one that kind of had it all is Alexa Grasso. Just because of what it meant, the way that it came in that fight, that she was probably down, and the way that she took the back so instantly, as you said, and then add in that Valentina had never been tapped before in her career. That's huge to win the title. And then just that visual of her letting go, half of Valentina's face being white, of all the blood being drained from it. I mean, that whole moment was too much for me to pass on. That is my sub of the year.
Nice. Okay, knockout of the year. I will go first again. For me, actually, I do also have a few honorable mentions. So if either of you guys only have one.
I got two honorables for this.
Omar, do you
just have a winner?
Yeah, I just have a winner. There are some good ones though. I'll go first. My KO of the year was Adesanya's KO over Alex Pereira. I mean, I don't know if I really need to explain it. It's a nice piece of revenge. And on top of that, it's one of now the man stole the dude's move in the cage. Yeah. Took his bow and arrows and planted 3 invisible shots into his soul. It is one of the most memorable moments, I feel like, in the octagon, and it would be hard not to give Adesanya his due credit, regardless of how the year ended for him. So knockout for me is Adesanya.
Yeah.
So my honorable mentions, I think I have 3. The first one is one that just recently happened. Josh Emmett knocking out Bryce Mitchell in one of the scariest overhand. If he's righty, I think it's an overhand right. That just looked bad for a minute there. I mean, Bryce Mitchell looked bad on the ground. So that was just for the knockout itself. He gets the honorable mention. Knockout plus the stakes. Honorable mention definitely goes to Tom Aspinall knocking out Sergey Pavlovich. The stakes of the moment, Pavlovich being the boogeyman that he is, and what Aspinall was able to accomplish in that first round. Nothing short of incredible. And then also honorable mention, I forgot that this one was this in 2023. Derek Lewis flying knee against Rogerio de Lima, followed up with some ground strikes to put him out. Just some vintage Derek Lewis there. But of course, for me, I agree with Omar. The knockout of the year just has to be Israel Adesanya knocking out Alex Pereira in their trilogy fight. Right? Trilogy? I don't know. I lost count. It was the knockout itself, how he did it, how that fight had been going, the backdrop of their first fight and their entire relationship up to that point, the fact that in their last fight, Pereira got the finish over Izzy in the way that he did, not without some controversy, of course. And of course, the celebration. Like Omar said, stealing his kind of signature move and turning it into a taunt with the bow and arrow. I mean, one of the most memorable knockouts, finishes, and moments that we will remember in this sport. Mark?
Yeah, we're gonna be unanimous again here. I'll give you my other shout outs quick. I'm always a sucker for a spinning wheel kick, and Sadabusi's knockout of Shane Mitchell was absolute filth. Justin Gaethje, just for the setup, the suddenness in the middle of such a high stakes fight, the significance of winning that rematch, his head kick knockout of Dustin Poirier. Josh Emmett, as you said, because he killed a man in the octagon, or so it seemed. But yeah, my answer is Izzy because of everything you guys already said. You guys nailed it. Just the way he suckered Pereira in, what that fight meant, the revenge, the way that he put him out, the 3 arrows celebration, which was iconic. I mean, all of it. And I may talk about this more as we go on here, so I'll leave it there.
I did not include Gaethje finishing Poirier just for the fact that that knockout made me really sad. I was like, no. I mean, honestly, I would have been sad if either one of them got knocked out.
Same though.
Yeah, man. Okay. Fight of the year. I'll go first again. I don't have any honorable mentions, but
me neither.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
Yeah.
For a fight on a whole, there probably could be a few honorable mentions. I mean, of course there are.
Oh yeah, for sure there could be.
But what this fight represented is again, I already said this once tonight. It's why you watch, and it's to see a smaller man try to overcome something. And in this fight, he did not end up doing it, but still he kind of proved something, and that was Makhachev versus Volkanovski 1. And it was just, when was it? It was earlier in 2023. It was in the spring, I think. It was just a complete fight overall. It was action-packed. I mean, my palms were sweaty. My heart was racing the whole time. You had those moments of Volkanovski with Makhachev on his back, and Volkanovski just like still taunting him and roaring and like trying and just throwing the strikes behind his head. And he's like, "Is that all you got?" kind of thing. And it was just, gives you goosebumps, man.
Yep.
Omar, what about you?
Mine was actually Moreno versus Pantoja 3.
Wow.
I couldn't stop yelling at that TV. It was a great fight. You could see Moreno at one point was hurt, but he was making adjustments. He was fighting through it. It was a wild fight, man. It was everything that you want out of a title fight. It was everything that you want out of a flyweight fight. It was great. It was great. It's one of my favorite fights of the whole year.
Nice, man. Mark?
Yeah, that fight was awesome for sure. I don't know why I didn't put honorables here. I think I just felt like none of them were close to what Islam and Volk was. So I was like, I'm not going to put any of these, but that would have been on there. And also the that Aldana and Hossa fight that happened recently was great. And then PFL just popped into my head since I mentioned Sada Busi, and I realized I forgot about that Shane Burgos Clay Collard fight, which was a fucking awesome fight. But my answer is Islam and Volk. It was just a perfect fight for, like, I know that's not a terminology that necessarily makes sense, but to me it does. It was a perfect fight. Like you said, the small man going up, the way he was able to come so close to winning that. They each had their moments in the fight, the skill on display, as you said, the moments of Volk just like showing how unfazed he was and talking shit in the fight when so many people thought he was going to get run over. Even the fact that it came down to these controversial scorecards, I mean, that was just a perfect fight. That is my fight of the year. And it's a shame that we got a second one and gave us absolutely none of that, unfortunately, but them's the breaks.
Them's the breaks, man.
Them's the breaks.
All right, 2 more. First up, we have Fighter of the Year. Omar, would you like to go first?
I will do Fighter of the Year, and his name is Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, like I said before, has had a hell of a 2023. I'm not even a huge Sean Strickland fan, but he's had a crazy year, man. It is definitely the year of Sean Strickland. Outstruck one of the greatest strikers we've seen in the UFC. Made it look relatively easy, if we're being completely honest. And had a crazy had wins in that year as it was overall. No one thought he was even going to get a title shot at that point. And not only did he won. So it's hard to deny Sean Strickland his flowers there.
I will go next, and I have to agree. I mean, I had a hard time. I almost felt like there wasn't a clear winner.
Totally agree.
For Fighter of the Year, because a mix between active or activity, stakes of their fights. So I kind of settled on Sean Strickland, but I didn't feel like there was one person who it was just like just a slam dunk pick. I hate to diminish Sean Strickland because he has had a hell of a year. He fought 3 times in 2023. He went 3-0 for the year. He defeated Imavov, Abus Magomedov, and then got his shot at the title against Adesanya, and obviously made the most of it. Best night of his life, best night of his career. I shouldn't say of his life. That's not for me to say, but just tremendous stuff. Makhachev only fought twice. Leon Edwards only fought twice. A big honorable mention for me, Alexa Grasso, because she defeated, she knocked Valentina off of her throne, which gets huge points. But then the rematch ended in a draw, and it was only 2 fights in the year. John Bones Jones comes back after a long layoff and just happens to win the heavyweight title, and that's like cementing himself as the greatest of all time, at least for now. But he only fought once. Was supposed to fight twice, obviously, but tore his pec. You guys get my point. Anyway, all that is to say, congrats to Sean Strickland for everything he's accomplished in his career and this year especially. And Mark, take us home for this one.
Yeah, I'll make some similar points to what you've made here. I agree. There was no standout fighter of like, this dude turned back 3 people. And like Strickland obviously did fight 3 times, but like one of them was Magomedov. It's not like the same as a title defense. You know what I mean? But yeah, there was no clear-cut guy like that. Some people I considered were Islam, but it was both against the same guy in Volk, so that I feel like took a little bit of points away. Pantoja I thought about, who had beaten Moreno and Royval. ultimately didn't go that way. Patchy Mix, I really considered to have finished both Stotts and Sergio Pettis. Pettis right after he had just beaten Patricio Pitbull, excuse me. That was a huge year for Patchy Mix. Aspinall, I considered, and Strickland, I considered, but the reason in the end I landed on Leon Edwards as my fighter of the year is because of the fact that he beat Usman and Colby, arguably the top two dudes in that weight class for the past however many years. Whereas Aspinall, obviously Pavlovich is a huge win. The other's Tybura. Strickland beat Adesanya, which is enormous. The others are Imavov and Magomedov. So again, I'm not trying to diminish anything, but I got to split hairs here. And to me, the fact that it was Usman and Colby was enough for me to make Leon Edwards the fighter of the year.
Yeah. What else was I going to say? I had one other thing to say. Oh, yeah. Alex Pereira. Huge year, but obviously with what he accomplished at the end of the year. But in the beginning of the year, he has a knockout loss. So that really knocked points off for him. And also honorable mention to Pantoja for beating Moreno and then taking the title, or rather defending the title with Royval. So, but that was only twice. So Sean Strickland, I think, was one of the only guys who fought 3 times in a year in the magnitude of that. So anyway, Omar, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
He went.
I went.
Oh, he did?
I said Sean Strickland.
You said Sean. You went first. My bad. Okay, last one. Moments of the year. This obviously can be taken in a number of directions. I'm curious to see what you guys said. I will go first. For me, the moment of the year has to be Adesanya standing over Pereira with the bow and arrow moment. Like I said earlier, I think that's just going to go down as one of the most memorable and iconic images in the short history of MMA. So that's my 2023 moment of the year. Mark, would you like to go?
Sure. I will give you only 2 runners up that I just felt like I had to mention because they were great, which was Robbie Lawler standing in the center of the cage after having finished Nico Price in his retirement fight and seeing that highlight video that they had prepared for him and actually having some emotion drawn out of him, which we don't see very much from Robbie Lawler. That was an incredible moment for me and one that will definitely stick in my head. And the other is just the feeling that we all had in that moment where it was like, does John Jones have a choke in? Oh, is it? Oh, he tapped. Oh, fuck. John Jones is the champ already. That was all that was
it. Yeah.
Like that moment was wild. Just the dominance and the ease of which that man finally came up to heavyweight and was like, yes, I am the champ now. Thank you. So, so that's got to be on the list. But yes, my moment of the year is Izzy knocking out Alex Pereira. Just as I touched on earlier, the entire story that went into this fight of the losses in kickboxing and MMA, Izzy's mindset the whole time going into it, the way he told you what he was going to do to put Pereira out, and then that image of him shooting the 3 arrows, which obviously, as Omar mentioned earlier, was Pereira's celebration. 1 arrow for each of his losses to Pereira as he stood over him, knowing where his son was in the crowd, as petty as it was, so he could find him and mock his son the same way his son had mocked him. I mean, the whole thing, but specifically just that image of Izzy standing over with the arrow stretched will be one of the great images of MMA for eternity. And it is locked in as my moment of the year.
Omar, take it home.
Mine was Sean Strickland versus Adesanya.
Wow.
That
Omar
fight
loving
hurt
some
me.
Sean Strickland on these awards, Mike. Just give them all. Did he win Women's
It's
Fighter of the Year
just-
too?
It's for me, man. It's expectation. It was really a fuck you moment to everybody in everybody watching. Right?
So
Nobody
you're saying-
gave
you're
Sean
saying
Strickland
the whole fight is the moment to you?
the whole thing. The whole thing, because every round was just more and more ridiculous. It went against everything that seemed like it was normal in the world. And I really couldn't get over the fact that Sean Strickland was having all of the success and then sunning Adesanya in the 5th round. Just walking him down, screaming in his face, basically bitching him out in front of the entire world, and Adesanya did nothing.
That's the moment of that fight.
Maybe that's the
in
moment.
my head is the walking down, yelling at the end, where it was
It's
like,
crazy.
"Yo, he did it. He did this shit, and he knows he did it."
Yeah, and he could do nothing about it. Like Izzy was like a deer in headlights. It was the craziest thing, man. Yeah, Sean Strickland. Like I said, man, it was the year of Sean Strickland. I'm not even a Sean Strickland fan. You will not see me standing for Sean Strickland on a regular basis. But fair is fair.
You're an MMA fan. You're an MMA fan.
Fair is fair. I was there for this, man. It was a moment I'm not gonna forget. It's true.
Yeah, dude, and it might all be over so quickly. Fight Streakers in a few weeks.
Yeah,
and he could easily lose that belt.
Yeah, Dricus is a fucking tank, man.
Yeah, that's
all right, boys. Well, we did it. 2023 is in the books, and so are our 2023 awards. Congrats to all the winners. Give us your addresses, and we'll send you your plaques and your certificates. And yeah, man. And next week we reconvene to discuss our predictions for who will be the champion of each weight class at the end of 2024. Should be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to look quick actually at what we usually do. My shit is not cooperating. Please hold. Here we go. We do matchups we're looking forward to, yes. We always talk about some dream fights like cross-weight type of deal that we feel could potentially happen. We do our breakout stars for the year. We do who will be champ at the end of each division. Yeah, and that's it.
Can't wait.
That's what we do.
Can't wait.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Well, that was good. I'm happy
Nice
to be back. I missed
happy to be back.
Show
right,
baby.
Gone.
Just easing our way back in the very beginning.
Yes.
I like it.
Nothing wild.
What's the main event of the first card back? I can't even think. Do you guys know?
I just looked it up. Fran just asked me the other day, and now I can't remember. Ankalaev and Walker.
Right. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
It's the rematch.
This is a rematch.
They gotta run that.
Hopefully,
back.
we get a better fucking referee this time around because.
Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't the ref's fault. It was the doctor's fault.
That's right. Oh my god.
Doctor's fault.
I cannot think about
The
that
desert.
fight.
Where are
I feel
you?
like I
The
always bring
desert.
this up every time, but
What?
without thinking. Of the
I hate
meme.
that he answered the question like that because he was equal parts right and equal parts an asshole for answering the question like that.
Yeah, I'm in the fucking desert.
I can no longer think about that fight without seeing the meme of the doctor thing. Why did you attack Anthony Smith's family?
So good.
Oh, God.
What?
Oh,
You
God.
attacked my family.
What?
Oh, man.
In the middle of the
All right.
octagon. Like, how crazy
Okay.
is that?
All
Enough
right, boys.
silliness. Gotta go.
Good work.
Good work.
Add
Tune
to the
in,
fact
you
that there's
guys.
a language barrier, and Johnny
Yes,
Walker had
yes,
no idea
yes.
what the fuck this man was saying until after the fight was already over. It's fantastic.
Yes. All right,
I'd love
boys.
to see Johnny win that, but it's gonna be tough sledding.
Yeah, man. Hey, folks, thanks for watching. Like I said at the beginning, give us a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Subscribe, leave a comment, do all the things. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.